Howdy, partners! Welcome to the Haunted Chronicles, episode 136. Pick up sticks. Thank you to last week's guest, Scott Marcus, and his website, again, is whatyourghoststory.com. Tonight's guests, well, we have three guests tonight. It's a Haunted Chronicles world record. Marty Stalker, the director, Chris Patterson, the producer, and Rob Marro, the executive producer of Hostage to the Devil, and they're waiting patiently in the Haunted Chronicles green room and will join us momentarily. Tonight's episode is sponsored by An Evening with Annabelle. Tomorrow night's event is sold out. Hopefully I'll see some of you there, but a new date has been added, November 19th, and visit warrens.net for ticket information. I am Mr. Haunted. Jennifer Jigglypuff Runyon is at appearance tonight at the Bangor Fest in Maine, and I am joined by the baby-faced assassin, Brock Burrows. Brock,
what's up?
What's up? You've been missing for a couple weeks.
Yeah. I had some...
searching for the elusive Yeti?
Yes, exactly. That's what it was. No, we had the week before, the first week I was off, we had a game, and it was just one of those weird games that we kind of just... It was our first plane trip, and I didn't want to take everything, and we ended up losing that game anyway, so I probably should have did the show anyway. And then we had a Thursday night game, and so I had some plans that weekend with a friend, and then of course last night we had another Thursday night away, and we actually won. So, here we are doing the show. So, I get the weekend free. Well, kind of. I got a lot of stuff to do, but yeah, it's been one of those things that it's been a hectic couple weeks, and I've missed being on the show the last 2 weeks. But I know you all did it well, and I was hoping to come back to connect with Jennifer again tonight too, but she's away, so I just have you, Jimmy, all to myself.
What a hoot! And welcome back. And if you better ask how I am quick. We're losing.
I'm not going to do that before Skype kills us all.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Jimmy?
I am happier tonight than the Tuscan tufted titmouse sipping on some Tetley tea like he's Danny frickin' Zuko or something.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
it. Thank you. We have three guests tonight and a lot of sound clips to get to, a lot of stuff to get to. Mm-hmm. But keeping in tradition of the Haunted Chronicles, I have one celebrity birthday for everybody.
Uh-oh.
So, Brock, you got one shot.
Okay.
Winona Ryder has a birthday tomorrow. She's known for Edward Scissorhands, Bram Stoker's Dracula, the TV series Stranger Things, Heathers, and Beetlejuice. How old will Winona Ryder be tomorrow?
43.
Oh, so close. 45.
Oh, I didn't have my warm-ups.
All right, no warm-ups. So tonight's guests, we're waiting patiently, are Marty Stalker, director, Chris Patterson, producer, and Rob Marro, the executive producer of the film Hostage to the Devil. Fellas, are you all connected with us?
I'm here. I'm Chris. Yep.
Oh, we got a full house today. Sorry for the small space we got, guys.
No worries. It's a bit tight in here.
Chris, Marty and Rob were guests before. Chris has never been on our show yet.
Wow. Popping his cherry.
Yeah. So, Chris, I want to talk to you about how this film got started when it was just an idea. Tell me how that started, please.
Well, it started about 5 years ago, maybe 6 now. Paddy McCartney and myself, who ran a company in Belfast called Causeway Pictures, we do horror feature films. And one night we were in a bar, as we often were, and we were talking to a number of people about the films that we did, and we happened to get talking to a priest who was beside us, and the priest just turned to us and said, well, if you're going to do a film, you should do a film about Malachi Martin. And of course, we'd never heard of Malachi Martin. So, of course, we'd never heard of Malachi Martin. And pretty much then we went back and Googled. And as you know, anyone who has Googled Malachi Martin will realize that there is tons of stuff online. As we found out later, a lot of it isn't really true or based in any sort of fact, but there is tons of stuff. And the one thing that sort of stood out to us was, why hadn't anyone done this before? So when we got together, we decided we were going to make a film. We were actually going to make a film in Malachi's life. And then we decided, let's make a documentary. It'd be more interesting. So that's pretty much how it started. But it took us 5 years, maybe 5 years, to convince people to actually help us finance the film. And in those 5 years, we met a number of people like yourself, Jimmy, and Robert, who's online there.
I looked back on Facebook. The first time I ever spoke with you was late 2013, and just said hi. And tell us what happened since then. How did like Rob and Marty get on board? Who we'll speak with in a minute.
Well, Marty came on board about that time, or just after that time. We had been looking for a director, and it just happened to be that we were working with on some other projects with Marty, and we started chatting about this project in particular, and it was something that Marty was working on as a short at that time, and it really piqued his interest, and he made the job his own, if that was the case, which is always good for a producer when a director makes a job his own. Rob contacted us one day, and he introduced himself, and we got talking on Skype, and we realized that Rob would be an integral part to any documentary we would do on Malachi's life, having been a friend of Malachi for a number of years. So that's, and also the way you said hi, Jimmy. It's just that we've met a number of people who came forward and talked to us about Malachi Martin in the same way, and I think Facebook and social media is a real good. I wouldn't say a barometer for people, but it certainly gets your message out there.
Yeah. I certainly and Marty and Rob.
Yes.
I don't know who wants to go first. Could you give us, for anybody that doesn't know, who is Malachi Martin? Just to.
Wow, so I think we should leave that for his best friend, Robert, I think.
Okay, well, thanks, Marty. Malachi Martin was a Jesuit priest and an exorcist for the Vatican. He was an assistant in the 1950s to the Jesuit Cardinal Augustin Bea, who was a very influential Jesuit cardinal in the Curia of Pope Pius XII, and subsequently in the Curia of John the 23rd. He then received a dispensation in the 1960s to live in the West as a secular priest, meaning he no longer had to follow his vows of obedience, so he could leave the Jesuit order, or his vow of poverty, so that he could take up a life as an author in the West. And as we say in the movie, he maintained his vow of chastity until his death. And he was a priest who ran a worldwide apostolate out of a tiny little cubbyhole on Park Avenue, helping literally God knows how many souls.
Yeah, just what he said.
That's my story.
Yes.
Thank you, Rob. Marty, do you want to clear something up about the film, that whether it's based on the book Hostage to the Devil or not?
Yeah, so when the film was first sort of publicized and first details were first released about the making of the film, I think a lot of people, because of the title of it, thought it would be about the 5 cases from his book, based on the book itself. We actually do cover the actual making of the book, but I just want to clarify now on your show that it is definitely, it's not about the 5 cases in his book at all. It's more about the man himself, the making of the book, but also his exorcism ministry as well. So I had a choice. I mean, I could have made 6 documentaries about this man. This man's life is fascinating. So I chose the exorcism ministry for various reasons. It was more of a collective sort of decision between producers and I, and just for me, it was his exorcism ministry was fascinating, and I got to meet the characters like yourself and Robert. So it's just to clarify, it's not about the actual 5 cases from his book itself, but we actually do have his literary agent, who is Lila, who is great. She talks about the making of the book, and you'll see for yourself when you watch the film. It's fascinating stuff, particularly with Peter, with The Exorcist being released sort of 3 years before, etc. So it's I just don't want to give away too many spoilers. That's the problem. I don't want to give too much information on the show tonight. So,
Jimmy, if I could just say, we found that, not that Hostage to the Devil is not an interesting book. If you've got a chance, you should read it. It's a real authority on exorcism. But as we look more into Malachi's life, his life was like an onion. Every skin that you pulled away, you found something else that was interesting. There was
well, yeah, I'm back in. I'm back in now. That was weird.
Okay, I'm back. Marty, you're with us?
Yeah, I'm with you, mate.
Okay.
And Chris as well. Chris as well. Chris is back in, and Robert.
I'm back.
Wow. I want to
the topic, gents.
You sound like a robot, Robert.
That's the topic, gents.
Oh, poor Robert, short-circuiting.
Oh, well.
Okay, that's a bit spooky.
A lot of people are asking when the film will be available to watch, and it was originally supposed to be out in the United States earlier. But could you tell us where it is available and what the story is about that? Please.
Hello.
Yeah. Chris can answer that question, which he was which is just
back.
Yeah, Chris has just come back. He just Jimmy was asking about the release, US release in particular.
Well, as if anyone who follows the Facebook will know that we've released in the UK and Ireland and Australia and New Zealand. I was told that the US release would be done at the same time, but now I'm waiting on Amazon and iTunes just to confirm a date with me. These things are beyond my control once we've done the film that goes out there. So I'm hoping. And if you really do want to see the film, I suggest you tweet Amazon or iTunes and say, I want to see this film. But it will be released hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and I'll have a date which will be on the Facebook page as soon as I can.
And we are sharing your link to your Facebook page in the chat room, but for people not in chat room, please search for Hostage to the Devil on Facebook or Twitter.
Twitter.
Any other places?
There's Twitter. There's what else, Harvey? We're on YouTube. We're all about the place. Just search "Hostage to the Devil" film, and you'll find us somehow. But any information we usually put out. We're very good at putting out, and we're very good at answering. Actually, we're quite good at answering questions as well on the site if people have questions about the project.
Even the trolls as well. Even the trolls.
Yeah, we got loads of trolls.
You have a few of those?
Oh yeah, we have people who. We have people. The funny thing about Malachi is there's no in between. Either people love him or they hate him.
He's like Marmite, like Marmite.
Yeah. And, we get a number of people who come on and just. I think they do it just to try and get a rise, but we don't give them it. So bring it on. As Malachi would say, any PR is good PR.
Could you guys send me some Marmite? Because I don't know.
You call it Vegemite over there. Vegemite, is it? Vegemite in America.
Vegemite sandwich.
Oh my God.
Robert, you're creeping me out.
Robert.
You just smiled and gave me a Vegemite sandwich.
That is Rob, for the record, I believe.
Can you guys even understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I think he needs an exorcist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just watch the movie.
we do have some sound clips from the Hostage to the Devil film, and if I could if you set this one up, guys, it's Art Bell. You went to visit Art Bell.
Yeah. So, like many of the contributors in the film, they were very wary of us to begin with, and Art Bell took a little bit of convincing, not as much as Ralph Sarchie did, but because they're very protective of the friend of their friend who was Malachi Martin, Father Martin. So Art Bell took a little bit of convincing, and I was invited to his home, and
His
Cat in America. Cat and I actually drove out there, Nevada, and interviewed him in his home, in his little sort of radio, in his studio, in his back room, which was great. So yeah, you'll listen to you'll listen to this clip now, and it's what he brought to the table was incredible, and he never actually met the man in person. He just forged the friendship over the telephone. You know, that's how warm Father.
All right.
Sorry, I got cut out there.
All right, we better get to a sound clip before all hell breaks loose.
Somebody kill the robot as well.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Rob, you're back.
All right, let's hear the Art Bell clip.
He was a fascinating man. He also said a lot of things to me in private. We did talk a great deal. And he shared some of those that I cannot share with you or anybody because I promised. What he did say, if you want something chilling, he said, imagine the very worst you can imagine, and then I will tell you that it's going to be much worse than that.
Wow.
Art Bell, the legend. It's interesting that Art is, he was one of the, I suppose, main people to bring Malachi into the light from the media point of view, and coast to coast, and all those years there. So it was one of the, I think that was one of the first things that we ever heard Malachi's voice on. It was the coast to coast interviews,
Right.
and it was like Malachi has a charisma that sort of draws you in.
Yes.
Makes you listen to him, and sounds completely authoritative in whatever he's talking about, and I think that was one of the things that was amazing to us, that nobody had ever done a film or a documentary about this man who had a lot of, there are a lot of people who hold Malachi in high esteem even now, and if you look on Twitter, people are still tweeting about him.
Yeah. We also have, let's hear Rob Marro. Wave.
Yes.
Oh, let's hear. We have a Rob Marro clip from the film. There we listen to. It won't be robotic, Robert.
Be normal, Robert.
We also have the new phenomenon of the demonic possession of children.
Demonic possession of children.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Good heavens.
Very frightening. It's very frightening.
That morning when I got a phone call from Father Malachi, I actually thought he was calling to confirm our birthday lunch that was going to happen in another couple of weeks. And instead he asked me, would I be willing to drive him up to Dr. Kumarswamy's in Connecticut? And I already knew the way, having been up there several times. So I said, sure, I'd be happy to. And while we were on the way up there, I said, what's the main reason for us coming up here today? And he said, well, you're going to drop me off because 2 hours after you drop me off, there's going to be a family arriving, and they have with her their small daughter, and she's apparently very severely afflicted with something that they believe to be demonic. And I said, well, then it's a good thing I'm dropping you off 2 hours ahead of time, because I don't want to be anywhere near her.
And that was Rob Marro.
Yes, it was. And that's the... Go ahead.
Yeah, can you tell us about that case, that last case he was working on at all?
Sure. What I can say is that he called me up one day, and he asked me would I be willing to drive him up to Dr. Kumar Swami's up in Wilton, Connecticut. And I said, sure, because I always, took the opportunity to spend whatever time I could with Malachi. And on our way up there, he just said, he filled me in that there was going to be, I'd be dropping him off in advance of the arrival of a family who had a daughter. She was about 4.5 years old, and they believed her to be spiritually afflicted, potentially possessed. And Dr. Kumar Swami was also a certified board certified psychiatrist, medical doctor. He was formerly the chief of cardiothoracic surgery at Albert Einstein Medical Center in New York. And when he found he could no longer keep his hands steady enough to do surgery, he studied for and became a psychiatrist. And he would do evaluations occasionally for Malachi on cases like this. So I told Malachi I would just drop him off in advance of the family's arrival and then pick him up afterwards. And as it turned out, we arrived coincident with their arrival as well. And, I'll just never forget because she just looked like this cute little kid. Average little kid, like, the armies of little kids that are be tromping around American neighborhoods for Halloween in another couple nights. Except you looked at her and your just intuition just set off all kinds of alarm bells. But if anyone were to ask you why, you wouldn't be able to put your finger on it. You just knew you just wanted to get the hell out of there. That's it, pretty much. And that's the young girl that turned out to be possessed.
I had a lot of questions about. Does anybody know what happened to that girl?
I believe the exorcism. I believe was successful. It took a number of years. Eventually, Dr. Kumar Swami turned it over to Bishop McKenna, and actually Ralph Sarchie was one of the assistants with that. And, they took up the cudgel from there, and they were eventually successful, but it took a number of years.
And we, speaking of Ralph Sarchie, we also have a Ralph Sarchie sound clip.
Great.
If we could roll that footage, please.
I truly believe with what I'm seeing now, with all the things that I've heard, all the things that I've read about, this is just the lull before the storm, because I see us being taken in the direction that Father Martin basically described, and I don't like it one bit, what's going on.
Overall and everywhere, throughout our community of nations today, numbering roughly about 5 billion, and chiefly by legalized abortion, but also by contraception, by euthanasia, by condoned infanticide, by deliberately fomented civil wars, by endemic hunger, by the floods of refugees. Never before in the history of man has the life's blood of so many been shed so violently, so mercilessly wasted as in our day. We specialize in the death of masses as a community of nations today, and we belong to that community whether we like it or not. So anti-life, surely, that's us. We are anti-life. And bloodstained guilt, surely. Every 24 hours we widen that dark red pool of human blood. We do. We do.
Wow, I never heard that one before.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard hitting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's one of the things about that one. I think that, and Robert and Marty and I have talked about this a lot, is about the way the world is looking now. And if you look at some of the stuff that Malachi said, it's sort of coming to pass. Wouldn't you agree, Robert?
Oh, without a doubt, Chris, you're right on the mark. He said that things would accelerate quickly, and I'd often ask him when, and he said, "God willing, after I'm playing a harp." and well, we know he's playing a harp now, and we look around at, what's happened here in the United States, politically, societally, as well as things like the decline of European civilization through mass migration of Islamic immigrants, most of whom are healthy young men of military service age, as well as the rise of the Islamic State. And it's just seems like a perfect storm of events that he was spot on with.
All right. We're at our halftime break. We'll be right back with Marty, Chris, and Rob after these important messages. Welcome back to the Haunted Chronicles, home of your guaranteed halftime shout-out for people in the chat room. Thanks for coming to the chat. Dr. Dave, Heavy Metal Psychic, Melissa, Indy, Dwayne, KLF, listening in Utah, Maggie Renee, Tony, Tiffany, Paul, Executive in Charge, Doug, Brock, Nicholas, Desi, Bang, Beetle65, Max, Brian, Diane, BN Hank, Maria R, and Michael Z, and Corey and Frankie B, and Junebug, Valerie, and Jennifer and Howard. Thank you. And we had over 60 shares for the event this week. Thank you, everyone, for sharing our event page. 60. Nice.
See, everyone wants that movie. They want to watch it.
Yeah, I'm desperate. I'm desperate for them to see it. I
saw it. It's really good.
Yeah. Jimmy, you need to give me that cut. No. And speaking of that, with everyone wanting to see this movie, I think a lot of them are going in thinking it's going to be something like, kind of The Conjuring and stuff like that, where it's kind of this is the story that we are depicting in this that the Warrens dealt with. What are your expectations that people take away from this movie, or what do you hope that they take away, and what are some of your fears about people going in that don't have an idea of the man or just heard of him, that might take this movie going in the wrong way and then kind of either being surprised or just kind of caught off guard in how it goes?
Yeah, right. I'll try and keep this short because it's a fairly long story, but we've only got a certain amount of minutes. What happened was it came apparent in the edit of the whole film where I was trying to tell two stories, make two films, make a film about exorcism and make a film about Father Malachi Martin. And within that 90-minute, when that feature length period, you just can't make two films. So the decision had to be made by myself. Do I go down make a film about exorcism, which has been done quite a lot, and it's been done before, or do I make a film about the man himself in his exorcism ministry? And I was given a bit of pressure to decide where this film is going, and I actually phoned a friend of mine and asked the same question: what do I do? And he said, well, what were your initial reactions to being on board the project 5 years ago? And my reactions were, how come nothing's been made about the man before? So as soon as I made that decision that this film was going to be more about the man himself, the former Jesuit priest, the author, the exorcist, that's when the film started to make sense in a way, and all the jigsaw pieces started to slide in, and I was left with a finished piece. And so it's a very objective. Well, I'm objective as I can be as a filmmaker, but my own beliefs about the man and my own beliefs about the existence of the devil and demons does filter in eventually, because as a filmmaker, it's hard to remain objective throughout the film, and people. Their expectations for an audience will be that they will watch a film about the man, and a very, very, I'm only scratching the surface about this man. This man was fascinating, as you all know, and your listeners know. I could have made 6 documentaries about the man, but I chose his exorcism ministry as much as I could, and it's a film about the man and his work in exorcism. and you'll still go away, and some of you will still be undecided about the man himself. But the main question throughout the film, from start to finish, is: does this man tell the truth, or did this man tell the truth? And that is the core question throughout this film. That weaves all the way through from start to finish. Did this man tell the truth? Yes or no? And you're left that question. You're left that with as an audience. You go away and you answer it yourself.
Nice. Yeah. Now, Mike, with a lot of in the paranormal today, a lot of people, and it's like, it's weird. Demon is the new word. I mean, everyone is looking for that demonic thing, and it's one thing that, as a paranormal investigator, I prefer not to ever have to deal with one. But it's a lot of people are out there looking for it. Did he have fears that some of these people were going in not knowing exactly what they were getting into, and possibly causing more harm or more damage to the situation, and possibly also causing havoc in their own lives? And how would he approach things like that?
I'll take that one. It's Rob. He always thought that when Malachi was alive, it was really before the tidal wave of interest in paranormal phenomena the way we see it now. Mm-hmm. But for example, you see on a lot of these popular paranormal TV shows that are on, for example, the Sci-Fi Channel or other cable channels, and I'm not going to name the actual shows, but you see a lot of them have no compulsion at all about using a Ouija board to try to communicate with what they believe to be spirits. And Malachi said that, the Ouija board is a method of communication that requires that in order for you to communicate with the other side, it requires you to empty your mind. And he said, and the problem is that in the spiritual realm, when you empty your mind, it's almost like an invitation. It's almost like a searchlight in the darkness. And there are demonic entities out there that will be more than happy to enter that space that a human has left their will. They've vacated it temporarily. And he just thought that, it was the doorway to possession by the demonic. He said that's the way the famous case of Robbie in the late 1940s that sparked Peter Blatty's novel The Exorcist. He said that's exactly how it came about, because the young boy was messing with a Ouija board with his aunt, and that's what opened the doorway to possession. The problem with a lot of these paranormal shows, and I know this is exactly what Malachi Martin would say, is if you notice, a lot of them say that they're communicating with the spirits of dead children, people who need help. And what Malachi would have said was there's only two types of entities that could do that. One, if it's a legitimate human spirit, it's a purgatorial spirit, a spirit of a human, a soul in purgatory that has been permitted by God to manifest itself on earth to ask for prayers for deliverance from purgatory. Or number two, it's a demonic deception. There's no middle ground. And Malachi would have said, read the Gospels, where our Lord said he was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. And as for the truth, he's never taken his stand on it. So take that as your baseline for everyone who engages in a paranormal investigation and thinks, okay, now I've got the stuff. I've got the goods. No, they're playing with fire.
Wow, I'm scared now. I'm going to run away.
That's true. That's what Malachi would have said. There's no daylight in between the two.
Yeah.
There's no Casper the Friendly Ghost out there.
Yeah, and this is what draws me to want to see this, is because I've heard his name mentioned many times, and I know we've had Draw on here before. But it's interesting because I'm one of those people that want all the information. I want all the information I can have and learn. And it's I think you have to take all differing views and all that stuff in and it helps make your decision. And you can't turn away anybody's perception or what they may say to that. And I think it only helps build your belief at that point. And so this guy who's been through so many things, you've got to sit down and at least listen to what he has done and what he has said.
You're right. And not only that, but you have to also remember Malachi Martin himself said, and it's in the book, Hostage to the Devil, where one of the devil's greatest ploys, in addition to trying to convince us he doesn't exist, is to try and convince people always keep an open mind about everything. Never ground your mind in certainty. Let's keep an open mind about this. Maybe it's A, B, or C. And Malachi said many times, an open mind is a sloppy mind. Know what you believe.
Yeah.
So he was quite clear on that. He was quite clear on that.
And one last question I had, and then I'll see if Jimmy has anything else. And we kind of talked about it on break, but I personally would think someone who has dealt with exorcisms and done a lot of them and deal with doing the Lord's work against these demonic spirits would feel like average people around them would feel maybe some of the negativity from those experiences he's had that just surround him, kind of just that are around him. Can you explain some of that? Was there anything like that? And what was your thinking that if there was or wasn't, why do you think that is?
In my 11 years of knowing Malachi, there was never an element of that. Whenever I know him, he could be very serious, a very serious person. He was never gloomy. He was never scared that something spiritually negative was either following him, oppressing him, or was out to get him. Sometimes he was relentlessly cheerful and had a very gentle charisma that drew people in. In the traditional Catholic theology, a priest is known as an alter Christus in Latin, another Christ, when he offers the Mass and gives the sacraments. And it's just my personal belief from having known him for so many years, but that when his soul was changed at the moment that he was ordained a priest, and that mark was put on his soul forever, that a tiny drop of Jesus Christ's charisma was imprinted upon his soul and his intellect, and it was the same charisma that made crowds of thousands of people follow Jesus around the Judean countryside with no food, water, or shoes on their feet, just to hear him speak and get a glimpse of him.
Wow. Nice.
So,
Jimmy?
And in fact, one thing I can just add, because this will pique your audience's interest, that one of the priests who gave him the last rites of the church when he was in the emergency room critical care unit at Lenox Hill Hospital, having given him the old rites of extreme unction, afterwards Malachi told him, the day that I fell and was pushed and struck my head, I didn't say my Mass that morning. And his confessor, looked at him and said, "What, did you neglect to say it?" And Malachi said, "No, I didn't say it. I began to say it. There was a presence immediately next to me. And then I realized it was the Lord Jesus present. And instead he said the Mass. And I just stood there."
Oh, wow.
And that was the day. 2 hours later, he was pushed off the stool, struck his head, embolism, hospital, stroke, and then coma and death.
Wow.
And I have that on impeccable authority. I could pass a lie detector test for that.
We have, what kind of, you have a lot of guests, interviews in the film. We have Art Bell, Ralph Sarchie, Rob Marro, and we also have John Zaffis.
Yeah.
We have a little clip from John Zaffis also, The Haunted Collector. If we could play that one.
Years ago, people used to look forward to sitting down reading a book. And Hostage to the Devil was probably one of the very first books I was reading in regards to some of this work. And finally had the opportunity to meet him when he was speaking at a small event. He would have this look you notice with a lot of spiritual people. They're trying to get a good sense of you. Because you have to remember, when you get involved with this field, it's so important to be able to be guarded and careful with the people you associate yourself with. Because people will go after you in a heartbeat to, be able to tear you down. There's one thing that people have to understand. He broke ground. He went public. He started doing appearances and radio shows talking about this topic. Demonology, possession. These things exist. These things do happen. He was crucified, basically, behind the scenes, with the church and people ridiculing him.
Oh. And speaking of, we were talking earlier on the if anybody could look up "Hostage to the Devil" trailer. I know it's on YouTube and all over the place. Guys, there's a scene. I just wanted to know if you did anything fishy to it. There's a scene in the beginning when it was one of some exorcism footage where the girl was kind of on the bed.
Yeah.
And she has this weird. I just noticed it after watching the trailer, after watching this 100 times, that if anybody could watch it, it looks like something unnatural is happening.
Her stomach.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not fiddled with at all. That's original.
Well, I mean, it's a strange one because you kindly gave us a lot of recorded exorcisms from your work with Lorraine Warren in the early 90s, Jimmy. I'm very thankful of that. But even now, audiences do believe some of them do believe that we actually stage those exorcisms as reconstructions. They don't actually believe they were actually real archives. So we have done. All we have done to the videotapes that you've sent through is remove identity, which was important for us, which was to hide people's identities, because it's a very delicate subject matter, and it's dealing with people's lives and people's sufferings, and in the film, because it's very objective towards exorcism and demonic possession. There was a psychotherapist on who said that 2/3 of the cases that came through her door she would rule out as mental health stroke can be explained by modern medical science. So it's important to hide identity with the people involved. So, are
you talking about Lorraine?
Yes, Lorraine.
Yes, we're talking about there was something, I'm not sure it made the film, but she described a way that I've never heard before, and I'm glad someone finally described it. They said that, when people break out of restraints, like their string, and they break out of all their restraints and pull pews out of the concrete, that people say, oh, that's just what's the word for it?
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline. Thank you. Yeah. And she said you're not going to get that type of adrenaline from willingly sitting in a chair getting prayer said to you.
Yeah, with no stimulus, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting, and somebody finally explained it in a way that I couldn't.
Yeah, there was so much, and there was so many people left on the, as we say, the cutting room floor in the edit suite. So we were just overwhelmed with people coming forward to help us with this film. So people who are left in the film have a justified reason for being there. So I just want people to watch it, keep an open mind. It is a skeptical, stroke objective film as much as it can be. And you'll come away with questions in your head about the man himself, and also about demonic possession itself as well. So you'll have a lot to think about, and a lot to swallow when the film's finished.
I think Jimmy, just following on from Marty there, it's important to say that yes, we talked to Ralph Sarchie and John Zaffis and a number of people on the ground in the US, but we also spent some time in Rome and talked to official exorcists at the Vatican, and got their opinion on a sort of modern view on what the church's idea of exorcism is. And when you you'll see this in the film, when you take on board what the Catholic priests are saying in Rome, and people like John Zaffis and Ralph Sarchie are saying in New York, they're not saying anything different. When Ralph Sarchie says, he sees a lot of things coming forward modern time now that he's afraid of, we were getting the same story in Rome. There's a lot of stuff that they're afraid of in Rome.
Wow. Hey guys, unfortunately we're out of time. Please look up Hostage to the Devil on Facebook and Twitter, and they'll give you release information.
Yeah.
And we're going to play the Hostage to the Devil trailer clip. Thank you, Rob, Chris, and Marty for joining us. And it's staying up
You're
late.
welcome, buddy.
No
And,
problem. Thank you very
here we
much.
go with the clip of the trailer.
The truth is, whether we like it or not, the devil does exist. He can influence, and he does influence.
Exorcism then is a healing, and it's a very horrid healing, but it does heal. Because inside they're living hell. It's a living hell.
Anybody who exposes the devil is in danger. The word of God is the truth. The devil does not want people hearing the word of God.
Satan is having his last stand. This is his Waterloo, but he's going to destroy as much as he can before he finally is shoved out of the abyss again, chained by Michael.
We did not talk an awful lot about his exorcisms, except the last one. I kept asking him not to do it, and he kept saying, well, I'm only going to be an assistant. Not much chance of that.
I still believe that Malachi was the target, and not that little girl. She was the bait.
We're talking about a 4-year-old child. She was innocence personified. There was no reason why this kid should have been afflicted in this way. And he was called by Christ to do these things. He came face to face with something that none of us have ever encountered that ultimately was responsible for taking his life.
He was a great mythomaniac. He was just a liar and a scoundrel and a cheat.
He's a warrior. He was a warrior for God, and he still is a warrior for God.
These are very, very sophisticated spirits who are there to harm us. And their